You know, I have to say, it's a little bit funny to me how sometimes it feels like the more I do this, the longer it takes to set up. Good morning, welcome to Wowensday, folks. I, I guess I decided last night that I was not really feeling like WoW, so I thought maybe we'd get back into art because I'm feeling more creative as of late in terms of like wanting to build a creative skill again. Uh, Now I feel more willing to play, but this is what I decided we were doing. So we are going to be doing some art today. I had found that I could practice painting really well by trying to duplicate something that I enjoyed. Haven't done that for a little bit now, though. So I'm hoping that I will still be able to. But also, I realized just saying, let's paint for Wowensday is not a decision about subject matter. So I will have to come up with something here very, very quickly. I am sure Songvale will be by later to give me an opinion. I bet she would like something Thalassian. What shall we paint? What shall we? I don't have it set up to take you with me to Google very easily. I can no longer remember what I use to pin things. Perhaps I cannot pin this little window. Well, if nothing else, you will be able to listen to some lovely World of Warcraft music from the playlist. Pop out the chat to stick out for me so that I can see when folks come in. I think I might like to duplicate an item or a weapon. I guess I might like to paint some kind of jewel. I'm scrolling Wowhead right now just to see if there's anything that stands out. I think we are going to draw part of a Blood Elf heritage weapon. I'm not sure, that's a very specific canvas size. I wonder why I used that last time, but we're gonna go with it. Okay, I'm gonna lock this one. I don't. There is a reference image little widget here. I could look at that. Maybe we'll do that so we can easily move it around. I'll go ahead and move. Oh yeah, and that'll keep our proportions better as well. So my main goal when I'm doing this is just to be able to gain, I guess, some fluency with my brushes and just practicing like replicating shapes and the painterly effect and my ability to notice things. So for me, I take the I guess I give myself some guardrails on it and I take the expectation to do it well off as much as I can. Uh Not to do it well. That was the wrong wording. But like the perfectionism or the I have to create it all by myself. I try to minimize that for myself. So what I will do is just try to copy it. I also let myself color pick right from this if that is what I want to do. Uh-oh, I don't remember all of my hotkeys. Awkward. Um, and I just do the best that I can. The main thing is that this lets me practice an art skill, but I also get to generally feel like I am competently doing something, which is helpful for. I thought you might like some Blood Elves Songvale. I don't know, how long does it say I've been streaming for? Because I picked this about 30 seconds ago, and I admit was a great deal of indecision on my part. I can't tell. 9 minutes. Well, it took 9 minutes to decide what I was doing. There we go. This was not working before. Oh no, pen pressure isn't working. Please hold. We have to restart Krita. What do you all get to see when I restart Krita? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Okay. Right, let's try this again. Let's see if we got it. I do have my tablet plugged into a different port today as my microphone plugs into the one that... We there? I think we are. Alright, great. I really want to zoom in, but a lot of people say when you're sketching, try not to. I am just going to start by getting some obvious shapes. I think I actually would sketch this with paint before. Like I just skipped the pencil part, but we're gonna do this as I try and remember what my process was for doing. I did do pencil sketching for Hydration Fish, but that one's like original. What I mean when I'm doing like this copy thing, I definitely start with pencil when I am doing like a complete original, not the Belf Shield. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, we'll start with this nonetheless. Hmm. I did feel a little bit more like playing WoW when I sat down to this morning than I did last night, but I still figured that since I didn't have a specific urge, and I do kind of feel that push again to have being creative, but like in a skillful way rather than like a, I don't know, kind of an expressive way, but like more so in like a skilled creation way. I know you know what I mean by that. Where it's not just about like, oh, I feel sad and I want to produce something that makes me feel sad, but rather that like I want to craft something. So I thought getting back into the habit of some art. Oops, I've been sketching on the background. No. That's so frustrating. Sungo says they're gonna be right back and then they'll have to get coffee. They have missed my sadness of my layer fail. That's all. See that this is a little bit more extreme. The layer thing is indeed cursed. I guess that's why we're gonna paint on another layer a little bit later. I just can't move the sketch easily now, which is not ideal. But I guess I can do what I just did, where I just fixed the background. Because I do think I want to get more of this blade in, so I'm gonna have to move it. It's gonna have to move. I could stop right now, make another layer, and trace over the lines within lines. That is true. But since I think I'm gonna paint over it and not save these lines, I'm just gonna commit to this being like a warm-up thing and let it be what it is. I guess I can grab the whole layer. Oh, I can do that. Okay. That's good. Outright. I think we've got a good I should claim my victory. Songvale has not done anything to contribute to this. I have got a good start going here. One thing about World of Warcraft art style is the everything's chunky, right? Like this blade is so thick based on these bevels. Or it feels very thick anyway. Alright, zoom out a little bit. We'll move our reference. I feel like we're in a good spot. Maybe start some painting. He said it awesome. I don't know the words, but I definitely know the progression and sounds. All right, well, it is probably time to stop sketching and start putting paint on. Whoa, we'll lock that. You know, in the original version of this, when I was like, "Oh, we have to open it again because there's no pencil pressure, or there's no pen pressure on my tablet," I specifically started by locking the background. I specifically started by locking the background. I continually color grab here, and I'm not going to do it loads and loads as I first just try and get basic shapes on, but being able to put the color, like look at a color and find it on a color wheel is not the point of this exercise. The point is brush control, and also like brush control in terms of learning pressure, but it's also in terms of creating shapes. Noticing when I need to grab a new color because it's changed. How is Haruko doing this morning? If you have checked in on her, Songvale, welcome back. The other thing that's great about this is it just makes me feel very competent, which is helpful for my motivation to keep working. Like, I want to get better, but also feeling like I already have some skill really helps me feel like it is worth it to try to get better. Tells me on the idea that not a lost cause. That is very important for me. Songwheel says Haruko was a good pooper, and she's very sleepy. Thank you for checking in on her. Songville says maybe she'll try the color picking thing. Sango says, I also don't understand why your barely started paintings always look better, so much better than mine. I think, like, it's partially when I'm doing this color picking thing, it's because I already have so much color variation, and I'm using a brush that, like, adds even more. Whereas you start with, like, very, very, like, true flats. And I think building up interest from flats probably has a lot to do with it. Like, there's already something that's very like looks very visually complex to what I'm doing. But yes, there probably is also reality that like you want to support me as your friend, but also like mixed with what you're talking about, like where you're critical of yourself. That just is not, it's a different mental landscape towards yourself. Here, make the brush size bigger. This my bigger? Yes, it is. Great. One of the problems with me in art is that I do it so rarely that I struggle when I get started again to remember where all my tools are and what my key bindings are. It makes getting started very slow and not necessarily feel super productive. That makes it less likely that I will feel like super satisfying and I should take it out again. So the cycle will continue. But we are working on that today by working on it. I do think like there's a reality in which I pick something I like to work on, but like I have to think about the reality that like if I pick something really complicated to work on, it's gonna take a long time for it to become something. But I want the sense I've achieved something right now. And that's hard. Songwheel says she's really cursed by the lack of interest in doing things that are easier, simple, or beginner friendly. Yeah. And I feel like there has to be things that are simple that I like. Um, it's just hard because I have to like look at a picture and pick a small element. Even this, I was like, what should I do from this? And I was like, okay, let's just zoom in on this part of kind of the guard around the blade or the attachment part of the blade. I said that was interesting, so we're gonna try to just do that. But even this is quite complicated, and I definitely will need more than 10 minutes to get somewhere on it. I do know that like what I'm doing probably isn't the best as like a process, you know? Like, there probably is a lot of real value in doing flats and then adding color or shading and color variation to it because um, that's probably how you would create something out of your own mind rather than just like putting blobs of color down. But I don't know, this is so satisfying that I guess it's possible that I could like have a process where I literally sketch with color. That'd be kind of crazy. One issue I'm running into right now is the blade is apparently a very similar gray to the neutral I use as my background color. Did I make a new layer for the painting? I did. Is on top of my sketch. So we will not experience that curse. Although one tip, because as you know, I like this kind of painterly style. And when I was researching, like, what do you do to, like, foster that look? A number of places pointed out that, like, if you wanted to have that kind of traditional painterly look, try to use a traditional painterly process, as that will kind of naturally result in that look. Like, some of the reason it looks the way it does, particularly with like brush strokes and shape development, is because of what you need to do when working with traditional art supplies. And so part of that is effectively working like all on one layer, and like when you need to correct something, you paint over it and adjust things around it. Um so to some extent, if I like, you can see all of these are on one layer together. I'm not doing this in like layers for the blade and then the first. I'm pointing with my finger. I need to point with this. Do I have a cursor? I don't. Okay, well, I'll use this plus sign. So for instance, if I was doing what I usually do with traditional art for painting, where I want things isolated, I do things based on like the layer that they are in physical space. So this is the bottom one, so I'd put this on a bottom layer, and then this piece, and then this piece, and then this eagle, and then I put this gem on a different layer. And while I'm doing this kind of painting sketching to kind of practice control and impacting, I am just doing it all on one layer. Which has kind of, it almost feels like sculpting as you push pieces around to get them to, to work. Although I suppose probably a good way to do it is to kind of get the whole piece in there, and then um, as I'm refining it, I could work from the back forward so that as I'm changing pieces that are impacting one another, I'm not having to fix this and then this and then this and then this and then this as much. And hopefully once this was done, I could just move literally forward in space, I suppose. What I noticed while I was doing this is that these shapes are not accurate, so I'm messing with them a little bit. We have Blood Elf music now. Yay. Legend. I have to say, Burning Crusade Classic is about to come out in in the Anniversary Realms. And if you have not played Burning Crusade Classic or Burning Crusade recently content, it is very surprising, honestly, how like dark and aggressive and like just metal Burning Crusade depicted the Blood Elves as being. Like the voice line jokes for like the player characters or like the emotes for the females um have this very prissy vibe, but like they they were vicious. Like I had a character during actual Burning Crusade that like basically was a vampire, but like a mana vampire. Um, but I also was treating mana a little bit more like a life force type of thing almost. And that was not a ridiculous take. Songwell says she does want to do Burning Crusade Classic. What are you thinking? Dream Scythe? I suppose Dream Scythe is really our only option. Unless you want to do the PvP server. For Burning Crusade Classic, Kel is also going to have her Vicious Era. Songwell says it's vaguely possible that I could be talked to a PvP server, but the idea doesn't immediately grab her. I don't know. I think they have settled on no, like, I mean, they had said they were not going to move the hardcore server to Burning Crusade. And I know there are, like, some fan communities that are going to do it old school when it was just like a fan mod that like enforced the I mean, it didn't enforce that your character got deleted, but it like displayed whether or not you had true Iron Man type status to other players based on whether or not you had run the mod without dying since the character was created. I think some people are going to do that on probably Dream Scythe. Which it could be worth trying to find like a hardcore guild on Dream Scythe and just see if that enables any of the hardcore type experience. I think what's interesting about doing painting like this is it really feels like sculpting, and there's something that's very interesting to me about that. I really feel like I'm pushing colors around more than I'm applying them. That's interesting. Google says she doesn't know if it would turn out to be immersive like hardcore is, or if she just stopped playing because of ganker jerks. Yeah, like on the PvP server sense of immersion. And we could try it and see if it's good. Yeah, I think the hardcore people are gonna be on Dream Scythe. I could become a hardcore WoW streamer. Maybe I should try it. See if there's a streamer guild that would let me in. Then I can be on hardcore moments. Or making ridiculous mistakes. Alright. Well, I think now we're at the part where we do things in detail. I will look into it, actually. I feel like the idea is interesting. I might do hardcore Burning Crusade. I think, obviously, I probably have to play a Blood Elf, although part of me wants to try Draenei. I guess it could really depend on, like, if there is a hardcore streamer guild, it's going to be either Alliance or Horde. So I guess I'll do the Burning Crusade race of whichever faction the streamer guild is on. We could, although I have to say it's quite the time investment. That's a good idea. One Blood Elf and one Draenei. We could make our own guild. I guess we could make a guild for the faction that isn't the official one. Or the... You get what I mean by official. Like, isn't the one everyone else is doing. Alright. It is time to zoom in and work on something specific. Pick something small. I think let's do the gem. I always like the gem. That's not what I wanted. Hey, you know what we should do? Save. Let's see. I will say I am sitting with my tablet over my keyboard, and it does seem like, you know, that's not really how airflow. What do you mean, what should we do? What should we do as regards what? Classic hardcore? Or what should we work on first in the painting? You know what we should do? And then I missed if you said... I apologize. I am very congested again still. It is frustrating that, like, when I'm ill, the last symptoms of illness never leave. What should we do? I think it might be... I asked, like, what should we work on, possibly? And maybe that was when I was deciding that we're gonna go work on the gem. But, truthfully, I do not know. So, I think the first thing is that I feel like the perspective is quite off here. There needs to be way more shadow on this side. little less more shadow again. We also may already be at a point where I should have a little bit of a smaller brush. So I'm just going to put these greens in, and then I'll probably downsize my brush. Very dark on this bottom facet. I was reading one of my books, and they were talking about how people might see like divinity as a jewel with many facets. But then they also were bringing up, like, they were talking about the nature of divinity and whether it's all one thing or it's like many different entities or things like that. And one of the things they brought up about the gem allegory is that even gems that can be faceted in specific ways fairly easily are not found that way in nature. Humans facet their gems. And I thought that had interesting commentary on the idea of divinity as a gem. The great thing about doing Blood Elf art is that you get to paint really pretty gemstones. I'm noticing that it seems like some of the texture on, say, like the shine takes into account there's like lines that travel a certain way along each facet, and that's interesting. Songville says, what I was saying about divinity and gems reminds her of her thoughts and feelings about the power and necessity of aware beings to place meaning rather than expecting it to always exist already. Yes. That would align probably with that. I agree that they are related ideas. I think one thing that I also could learn more about in terms of brush sizes is, so like here I feel like I really used too small and it's just made it kind of scribbly mess. It's like figuring out how to walk my brush size between things effectively so that it doesn't turn into this like messy mess, but rather like there's small details picked out, but then there's also decisive strokes. Like I don't want so many individual like furry lines. Maybe I'll go even a little bit bigger again. Although this is missing the point, because now I'm just like inventing stuff, right? Like I'm not looking at the reference, but I guess that can be fine too, because I have got an idea of what I want, and now I'm trying to go see if I can create it. But I suspect I'm going to zoom out and find that whether or not I've succeeded, it does not look like the reference. That's okay. I guess I'm not necessarily creating a finished piece for a finished piece purpose. I am trying art techniques. I do like the effect that I have now better. Also, I appreciate you saying it still looks good. Um, there is technical skill value in being able to exactly replicate a reference. I would agree. Where's my grabby? There's my... I do want to push this line down, I think. I don't know. We're gonna go smaller again. Try and get a few of these things to come back now that I've blended out. This. Here. 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 Is this too high? Is that part of it? I think maybe it's supposed to be more part of the problem. That might be some of it. And I wonder if there's some color theory going on here that I'm also not quite grabbing. Because I'm definitely color grabbing from here, and yet it's not as bright by the time it's making it down here. Probably some of these very darks that are not still present, so we'll try to pull those back in. Guess that acid actually ends up there now. Songville says, probably the thing I'm also intending to do with art is not always just replicate references. That's true. Gems are really interesting to paint, and I used to be in a phase when I did it a lot. I enjoy how luminous they are, and I should try to do them again. Yes, I admit when I was trying to think of like something wow to paint, I really just was like, well, I kind of feel like painting a gemstone. Let's find something Blood Elf, because they tend to put gemstones on their stuff. We got here wanting to paint gemstones. Tungville agrees that the Blood Elves have very pretty gemstones and says that it might be interesting sometime to do like a collection of pieces themed around magical gems. Ooh, that does sound like an arcane gem, a fel gem, a death gem, a life gem. That sounds like the art series of Songvale. I call upon you to give the world this. Alright, I feel like I'm a little bit stuck on the gem, so we're gonna go work on something else. Can't quite balance big blocks of color with like the detail brush not making it look kind of fuzzy. Which could be the brush I'm using. It does have a fuzziness. Maybe we'll change to another brush. That's not what I wanted. Undo. We're gonna move the reference. How to... Trying to figure out how I'll be able to see the bird while painting the bird. So we could just make it much smaller. And just try to really notice. It blends in here between the two. Gonna come up. But it does fade into the... Doesn't have as... It's interesting because it still conveys metal, but it also has this... I don't know, it's not like a perfectly sleek texture, and I think it's really interesting. I feel like it's very common in World of Warcraft art. Have that sort of, it's metal, but also, I don't know, it's almost like when you look at it, you're not sure if it would be smooth or rough to the touch. Fungo says, yeah, it's not polished as much as their mass-produced metal objects are, and it's having less than completely smooth texture gives it a lot of tactile weight, I feel. Yes. Yeah, I agree, yeah. I do feel like things always feel, when you look at them in World of Warcraft, like they would be heavy. Friendly reminder of the fact that Lorthamar, when angry, can just use one arm to pitch a giant solid gold bench several feet across a square. Do not mess with Angry Elf. It probably will not go well for you. I don't know, maybe Azeroth has like really... I was gonna say really crazy gravity. But does that change like how heavy the bench would be then? Like, proportionally, would a solid gold bench to Lorthamar be just as heavy to him as a solid gold bench would be here, because gravity's not as strong? Like, weight has to do with gravity. You experience weight differently. Songville mentions that stoneware almost always has chips and cracks, too. Yeah. Very true. I think I like the brush that I am using more now. It has a harder edge, and I feel like I have a lot more control as a result. Which, like, fair enough. I feel like you get told that all the time when learning art. Like, don't use such a soft brush. Like, use a hard brush where you have to make decisions, but also you can actually have control. Songville continues down on, I think it comes down to how much strength elves have relative to the gravity they're subject to either way. And I don't know about upper lower limits of bone and muscle material strength, or whether such limits would even apply to a creature that eats magic as a nutrient and presumably incorporates magic into their body structure. To say, like, if the gravity were lighter, would that mean the elves could be stronger relative to it? Yeah. And I also, in fairness, I am somebody who's not necessarily a huge fan of, like, investing deeply into biology of fantasy. Which is weird because I'm not adverse to, like, medical discussions, but at the same time, mundanifying everything based on, like, oh, it's all chemicals and things like that, the way it is in our reality. And it's not my favorite, so it's kind of weird. 'Cause it's like, I want to have these discussions, but I also, like, don't want to ruin it for myself. In terms of, like, forcing it to obey logic it doesn't have to. Some of this is a little bit lost against the edging of the skirt and the armor underneath, but I'm still trying to find it. Songville says, personally, she just thinks elves are stronger relative to their own size and weight than humans are. I agree. Yep, I think elves are surprisingly resilient and strong. Surprising in terms of, like, when a human looks at one and is like, oh, okay, if somebody was that thin or that lithe, I wouldn't expect them to be as strong as me because I'm big and bulky, and then they arm wrestle an elf and they are surprised to find out. I'm finding this really challenging today. I feel like in the past I'd just like go and keep color picking and it would eventually work out, but I think I do have a more complicated picture than usual. I also think I probably need to make it bigger to be able to color pick more accurately, although I will say that looks pretty good. You know, like if I am up here comparing these, of course, this looks very not great. But if I zoom out to be that size, actually, you know? Okay. All right, this instantly makes me feel so much better. Like, look over at the preview image on the left, and then I realized, like, oh, actually, this is great. You have a thumbnail over here, and then you just don't look at it. And then you realize, I'm doing fine, actually. Songville says she supposes it's possible that the bench was enchanted to make it lighter, so she acknowledges that possibility, but I don't know why you'd bother. What the advantage would be in making a fixture easier to move by accident. If you need to move the bench, you can cast a temporary spell on it. Yeah, I think probably when it's out in the square, if anything, they've enchanted it to make it heavier. And Lorthamar does not strike me as the kind of person who would take even the split second when he's angry to, like, enchant a bench to be super light so he could pitch it across the square. I think he was just mad. He just pitched it across the square. All right, I want to pause and just appreciate the thumbnail. The thumbnail actually looks really good. Songville's like, yeah, that wouldn't even be satisfying. Exactly. Like, it would entirely be about performance, and that is definitively not Lorthamar. He was real mad. Which, the circumstances called for being real mad. That's totally accurate. Now I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, what do I even want to do? I guess over there, I feel like I want to smooth out the red areas and the blade. Those are my next priorities. So let's try the blade. I just want it to not be as streaky, I think. I also need to commit, like, which of these things is stronger. This part, oops. This part? Bevel. I'm gonna go with this part. Then immediately undo everything that I achieved. Alright. I guess I don't need to be able to see the gem right now, so I should move this down so that I can actually see it while I'm working on the part that I'm actually working on. It added like a weird wavy texture there. That was strange. But we will fix it. We will fix it. This goes about... Songbird says, I feel like you do a really great job of replicating the WoW style when you do these. That is the goal, because I really like the WoW painterly style. Bold shapes and strong weightiness. I mean, finally it's paying off that I move like an orc. I feel like I do a good job also getting, like, maybe it's that it feels approachable to get to the elegance in this WoW style, though. Hydration. I did bring water just to be sure that I could make good on these. Alright, we got the water. We got the water. I should get one for coffee. Although, the problem with that one is that eventually I will, especially because I do drink the coffee on my own. So then at a certain point I will just run out of coffee and then won't be able to obey the alerts anymore, which isn't great. Spending your hard-earned points, I should be able to... Hard-earned points by spending time here, I guess. I want to always be able to make good on it. Make one for taking magnesium, but is that really like a mid-morning activity? Is it really an activity at all? Songwell says it's something I need to be honor bound into doing. Fair enough. I do like words like honor bound. That does instantly make it way more appealing to do it. Songwell says I just spilled coffee on myself because apparently my hand doesn't know where my own damn mouth is. I that issue. You remember when I was at your house and there was like a month where I just kept tilting the glass to like drink water like an inch too early and I just kept dumping it down my front. I'm glad that whatever that was, that era seems to have ended for now because that was super annoying and stupid. I am glad that you were worried about me. I feel cared about. Like, on the one hand, sorry to have worried you, but on the other hand, thank you for caring. I think what's going on here is there's like a dark patch kind of in the middle. And then there's light on either side of it. Songville says she had a spark of anxiety that thought maybe we should go on WebMD and find out whether or not this was a symptom of some neurological condition. The thing that concerns me, and I'm hoping that it's just like I got in my own head about it, but the one weird neurological symptom I feel like I have is when I can't say a word and then I just like get stuck on it. I guess it's kind of like a stutter maybe, but that's the one that scares me. I don't like that one. It's not a call to go on WebMD to figure out that I have early onset dementia or anything, but that's the one that worries me. Sungbill says, I feel like I've seen enough actors fall over themselves trying to say part of a line in a blooper reels that I don't expect that to indicate an issue. By volume, do you mean you do a lot of talking in which that happens? I don't remember where I used the word volume, so I'm really not sure. I guess that's fair. That, like, it happens to actors where, like, sometimes you just get stuck on a word. Oh, by volume, I do a lot of talking in which that doesn't happen. That's true. Yes, that is rather rare. That's true. It's not happening that much. So I am probably fine. Hmm. Starting to look pretty good, I have to say. I was kind of like, well, this was dumb. Why do we try? But actually, really, as soon as I noticed this, like, overall look thing over here on the left, I started feeling a lot better. Because actually it looks pretty good. I'm happy. It's so nice to be happy with what you're doing. You know what I could do rather than trying to, like, do that at a super difficult angle? I could use the keybind that I created specifically to rotate things. It might be called preview or, like, overview. Songville's like, what a concept using the tools one made. I struggle with this. Yeah, that's kind of it. I specifically made this tool to help me, and now I will ignore that it exists. Such is the way. The way to what? Misery. The way to misery, that's what it's the way to. Straight and abject misery. I caught myself looking at the thumbnail as the reference for what I'm supposed to be doing. The thumbnail's up here, brain. I do see that this should be, like, a lot smaller. I guess I can do this a little bit. Maybe that's some. Sungville says a few times she started on trying to make like a care package or emergency box for when her mood has really crashed, but she doesn't think she's ever gone and actually used such a thing. Sometimes I do want to make for herself is eventually a color palette, like a collection. Okay, I want to talk about the first thing first. I feel like that's a great idea. I think my biggest challenge when I have a mood crash is that a big component of those is that I don't want to help myself. And I am not sure like what the silver bullet is for that. That like when I'm feeling truly terrible, I don't want to help me. So it doesn't matter if I have the tools to help me because I don't want to use them. And that's very destructive, and I haven't solved that problem yet. Songvale also says something she does want to make for herself is a color palette, like a collection of all the colors and color sets for shading that she has figured out are actually good, so that over time she can spend less and less time on finding the right colors for any new project and more time just picking them out. Yeah, I definitely have seen people suggest that before, rather than using like this color selector wheel. I don't really have any prepared, but I don't think I do anyway. But I know it is a thing here that like I could have a Docker. Where are the Dockers? Tools? No. Window? Workspace? I know in Krita somewhere, like, all of these are called things, like these Dockers. And there's a way to, like, turn them on and off. And I just can't remember where they are in a toolbar shown. No, that's not it. Dockers. Palette. And so, like, here, there's different colors instead that you can pick from. I think I might have made vibrant color, possibly. But instead of having the whole wheel, you have like all these things picked from you, and then you just do that. And I do feel like there's some value in that. You kind of reminded me that I think last time I was really into painting, I discovered that I did better with that rather than this. Like, this is too many options when I don't have the skills to be able to pick a good option. The really dark color here. We're gonna go down pretty small. I think what really interests me as an idea is being able to sketch and to draw with color. Like, I think it would be interesting to be able to, I'm doing kind of sketch shapes, but it would be good and also, like, cool to In the same way that like people sketch and they use different like line thickness and things like that. It's like I want to blend the drawing techniques with painting ones. Rather than thinking like we do a sketch where we think about line thickness and whatnot, but then you don't think about that at all with the painting step. Like I like doing both kind of at the same time. Songville says she feels like she's maybe getting better, but she has struggled to come out with the color she wants, much less a set of colors that look like they're supposed to be in the same room. Another option is definitely like I know it became really popular to like think in terms of color palettes, so there are websites that will just give you color palettes, and that could be another option for scaffolding, right? Like where it's like I'm just copying this thing. Like just using a color palette from somewhere also could be a really helpful scaffolding tool to like practice something else other than color picking. I think it's also helpful to realize that like all of these things are like pieces of the larger skill. So it's not unskillful to, in the same way, like it's not unskillful to use a reference when you're either learning more about anatomy or just like the point is you want to work on brushwork and you want to paint a snow leopard. So since you're focused on brushwork, anything that's not your brushwork, you find a support for so that you're not spending like mental and emotional energy on that because that's not what you're there to do. Like it's like the opposite of the like if you would like to make a bagel from scratch, first you must invent the universe. Like that's very funny, but like that's also not a good way to learn a skill. And I realize that like what I'm doing right now, it's like I'm just copying shading and color. So like what am I learning about how shading works or whatever? And it's like on the one hand it's like I'm not deducing it, but I am experiencing like intake of information about how things do change in different shapes and lighting. So I still feel like I'm potentially learning from those things, especially when it's like um I want the accent. I want this genuinely to impact the way that I interpret what I'm looking at. Because I'm not looking for it's entirely my own idea to be my style. I like the idea that my style also evokes things that are, or maybe invokes. It evokes in me, it invokes in somebody else a sense of the things that I want to be associated with that I enjoy. Like it's not, which is weird in a way because I was very individualistic when I was younger, but I increasingly want people to be able to look at me and know what I'm connected to rather than just to look at me and be like, wow, that's so different. That's so unconnected to everything else. I guess I wanted to contextualize me a little bit. I continue to keep looking at my reference, or at my thumbnail as my reference, and my reference as my thumbnail. Another thing I'm noticing is sometimes I'll be like, oh, this needs to be lighter. And then I'll like color grab and like start putting it in here. And I'll be like, no, it already is this light. Which then is giving me this moment to realize, like, oh, this doesn't need to be lighter. This must need to be darker. Which is interesting. Or like, I bet this isn't dark enough. Oh, no, it's not at all. Okay. Um, Songwheel says, well, if the reference were my thumbnail, then I'd say good job, 10 out of 10, you're done. But if your actual thumbnail is still shaping up very well, thank you very much. But I feel like your gold is even more luminous than the reference one. It might be because I still have, like, really high contrast. I've noticed that on some of my, other ones, though, that the gold on, like, my Cinderai stuff seems more luminous. And I wonder if it's because my highlights are bigger. Like, the shine here, or here, is an overall, like, bigger chunk, maybe, or, like, just a bigger block than it is right here. And I think that's part of what's causing that. Move the reference over a little bit. I think another thing that keeps happening is I'm looking at the wrong part of the blade. That's not ideal. Hopefully this helps me look at the correct part. Um, Songville says, maybe also with less blending, like the edges are a little higher contrast between the light and the dark. Yes. I agree, probably fair. Add and more very strong edges. But like here I'm doing it. I'm looking at this and putting it here when... Oh no, it shouldn't be there. Oh, I see. This is not correct. This needs to be more like that. Because mine is cutting off much sooner. Mine cuts off like right here. Okay. Nope. That was the very light area. I was looking for this really dark color. Less severe. This does get bigger. My plan is to go today until around... I'm not sure if we'll end in 15 minutes or in half an hour. I'm feeling pretty good. Maybe half an hour. I have to be to work at 1, which means I need to walk there at 12:30. But I haven't had anything to eat yet. So, probably getting off no later than 11:45 so I can make something to eat and eat it will be what I must do. The music has gotten very spooky. Hongo says I don't want it to be over, but that does make sense. Yeah, I've enjoyed this. I definitely think we should keep this on the table. If I'm not feeling World of Warcraft gameplay, why not World of Warcraft painting? Songville said, is this the music from Undercity? I think so, yes. This is Undercity. Songville says, I thought about doing a WoW art while I did a WoW art. And she thinks she would like to do that again sometime. She really enjoyed doing art while I stream, and I did before. Yeah, I did that. I do that sometimes too, where I paint while I listen to a Twitch streamer who is also painting. I think that's that co-working thing I was talking about, where, I don't know, it's social. Songville said that this time she set up her work files, and she's trying to tell herself over and over that it is okay to not work like a bat out of hell right now, because the fact that a project has started does not mean that it is already due. That is true. You gave yourself lots of time. You need to make progress, but you don't have to have it all done. It might be helpful, like, I don't think you necessarily should, like, make yourself not get ahead, but it might be helpful to, like, have 2 progress bars that shows you, like, the progression of time until the due date that you fill up every day, and then also you can, like, fill up the bar based on how far you are through the manuscript. She's putting aside work right now so she can pay attention to the stream. Yeah. Well, if you want to take a break, I realize we're almost done, but I am suddenly aware that I really need to use the restroom. So we're going to take a brief break. And I will be right back. I'm going to zoom out so that while I'm gone, it looks good. Oh, I left my drawing glove across the room after I've already plugged my mic back in. Right, we have acquired that. You know what? This is not that bad. I can tell that the bird is under-rendered, but the blade is looking pretty good. I got cursed briefly, but I have resolved the issue. The curse is ended. The blade is looking pretty good. Pretty okay. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if we should leave off the blade now. Like, I still feel like I see more things that we could do. But I feel like I'd like to work more on the bird before we're done. Bird needs more help than Anything on the blade really. Longwell says I should make a channel post in the Discord for noting down things I need to paint for stream. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've talked about that a number of times and then haven't. We should probably rectify that rather than me just acknowledging that I haven't done it. Pandaria time. The Songville says input BRB graphics screen card on it. Only critique of the electric kettle is that it's quite loud, but she feels like it is more loud than others. Sorry about that, about the kettle. But I appreciate you saying that you like the feathering here, and you haven't heard me in a bit, and you're wondering if I'm focused. I am very focused. Um, I'm in that mode where I was just like, oh, I'm almost done with this part. And then I think, looking at the clock, it's been like 2 minutes since I've said anything. I'm just trying to feel like I have this smoothed out plenty enough to be able to, like, guess move on, like, leave it alone. It doesn't feel polished enough to leave off, but also, as I said, I've noticed that the bird head at this point is greatly less rendered than anything else. And like I have this really dark line, but it occurs to me like what differentiates this here is actually a light line. That's kind of awkward. I guess the reality is that like maybe the project I'm doing just is not a 2 hour painting for me, and I'm just not going to be able to finish all of it to the same level of quality at this point in hours. But that's because I want to. Hongo says she does hear me now. And she feels like it would be hard to totally finish this in one stream, but it still looks good and is also good practice and encouragement for skills. I agree. It's true. I just also want the satisfaction of a finished. I don't know, it's not even like really a piece though, right? Because it's like it's a copy. Like it's a sketch. It's effectively like a really long doodle. But that's okay. Songbill says she thinks what it is a study. That's correct. Yes, it is a study. So it can take as long as it does or doesn't need. Study is the correct word, you are right. Alright. We move on from the blade. Keep saying that and then like doing a little bit more. Burb time. Alright, it's burb time. We have to address the burb in the room for 5 minutes and then we have to go. Time to address the burb. But what about this? Address this. I feel like I'm not going to be able to do the burb in 5 minutes. I'm going to address these. I don't know. Unless you really... Burb? Okay. Songvale really needs it to be the burb. So... I will obey and work on burb. Burb, 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 burb. We're do the burb, the burb. I am noticing where, like, sometimes there's a really hard edge, and then sometimes it, like, fades in. I think paying attention to that seemed really important for making it not look muddy, but, like, still painted for, like, when do you fade things in and not. I was listening to the music just now and I was like, where have I heard this recently? And I was like, oh, Pandaria, because that's what I was playing. I think this piece is a little bit too thick. When I get focused, I admit that I am not as chatty. Okay. Songwell says, thank you for doing the burb. You're welcome. Do you feel like the burb is doing better now? Songwell says, it feels like it's really central attention drawing part of the whole working, so it makes sense. Yeah, that's fair. I feel like I am now very interested in the texture on the blade, but I think you're supposed to look at the bird and the gem for sure. I realize at the moment I'm painting some things that are not the bird, but I feel like these things being fuzzy near the bird are impacting the bird. All right. Well, it is 11:47, which is unfortunately beyond even what I said we were going to continue on through. However, I do think actually we made significant progress on the bird. More progress than I thought we could make in that short amount of time. Songville says the bird is looking a lot more than it was. It looks like it belongs with the blade now. Awesome. In the thumbnail. Yeah. I think I don't like this highlight like on its cheek. It's too much. I like that better. I don't know what it is in the reference, but in the 11th hour here, I like that better. I think I feel like the eye should glint more than that random cheek bit does. But alas, I need to stop working on this and start working on putting myself together to go earn money. I'm also sad that we didn't get to address these, but we did pretty good in our studies today. Thank you for a nice Wednesday. I am excited about the blade texture for sure. And I know I've done good gems in the past and metal, and I am capable of that too. So, unfortunately, because I pushed it so long, we definitely also cannot raid. You're welcome for the stream, Songvale. I don't know at this point if we will be able to stream Genshin tomorrow as expected. I will let people know in the Discord. I am not sure if where I will be, A, will have the internet connection, or B, it will really make sense to sit and just play a video game for 2 hours in the morning. It kind of depends on how everything goes. But regardless, I will try to see folks again. I think maybe what I will say is if I don't stream tomorrow, I will stream Friday, and it probably will be Genshin. So that's what we got. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining me today over on my channel. And I will see you again in the future. Thursday, Friday, or next Wednesday for another WoWensday. Have a good day, folks. Goodbye.